Motorola Edge 40 versus the Pixel 7a. Which mid-range smartphone should you consider? I know the Pixel 7a is more expensive, but stay with me till the end where I'll discuss why this comparison still matters despite the price delta that exists. Anyway, if you're here for the first time, I'm Arshad. You're watching Trakin English. Let this battle begin. I like the design of the Edge 40 and the choice of materials. This blue one is available in PMMA or acrylic, and the black and the green one is available in vegan leather. Considering that the vegan leather variant is also priced at 29,999, it's better to actually pick that one because it feels more premium and the texture is damn nice too. The Pixel 7a on the other hand is all plastic on the rear, and both these phones have a sand-blasted aluminium metal frame, which definitely adds to the premiumness of the phone as well. But the thing with the Edge 40 is that it provides a metal frame under rupees 30,000, which is sort of a rarity. Also, when you take both these phones in the hand, you will notice that the Edge 40 is actually lighter and slimmer as well. And because of that, the in-hand feel becomes way better. And to top it off, inside the box of the Edge 40, you get a hard plastic case which doesn't break away the feel of the phone, and you also get a 68-watt charger bundled inside. Google doesn't provide you any of those inside the box. It does give you an OTG dongle though. Now, there are a couple of reasons why both these phones can be called premium, and that's because you get IP68 rating and wireless charging. However, on the Edge 40, you get faster 15-watt wireless charging as opposed to 7.5 watts on the Pixel 7a. That said, one practical real-world advantage of the Pixel 7a is that the Type-C port at the bottom is USB Type-C Gen 3.1 compared to USB 2.0 on the Pixel 7a. Therefore, you get faster read-write speeds, better HDMI support, all of those. By the way, on the Pixel 7a, you can add one physical nano SIM card, but on the Edge 40, you can add one physical nano SIM card, and for the secondary connection, you can actually add an eSIM. So, of course, for those who want a dual SIM phone, then the Edge 40 would be the better choice for you. Now, when you talk about the actual design and the look of these two phones, I like the Edge 40, especially the vegan leather variant in green, but I know looks are subjective and your mileage will vary, so let me know which one you pick between these two. Now, if you talk about the displays on both these phones, one phone clearly wins, and no points for guessing, it is the Motorola Edge 40. Not only do you get a curved POLED panel, but you also get extremely slim bezels around the display itself. In comparison, when you look at the Pixel 7a's front, it looks dated with its thick bezels around the display, and this one definitely looks way more modern in comparison. That's not it, you get a faster refresh rate display on the Edge 40 at 144Hz, which is the maximum that is possible. On the Pixel 7a, it's 90Hz. In fact, Google doesn't even have it on by default. You have to head into settings and display and then switch on smooth display for it to actually run at 90Hz. That's how underconfident Google is with the performance of the 90Hz, because of course it will drain more battery. Motorola's display can also reach a peak brightness of 1200 nits. I don't know the peak brightness measure of the Pixel 7a, but in regular usage, when I actually use these two displays side by side, whether I was using them indoors, whether I was using them outdoors, the Edge 40 is definitely brighter. And another problem I'd mentioned on the Pixel 7a in my previous videos, it does have some sort of color shift when you look at it at an angle. That is fairly well controlled on the Edge 40. There's very little color shift that you see. But the Pixel 7a does have a couple of advantages. Firstly, the color accuracy tuning of the Pixel 7a's display is more natural compared to the Motorola Edge 40. And secondly, when I compared the haptic feedback, it's pretty tight on the Edge 40. There's no problem with it per se, but the Pixel 7a feels more refined in comparison. In terms of similarity, you get Corning's Gorilla Glass 3 protection on top of the Pixel 7a, and Motorola has finally confirmed it to me that the Edge 40 actually comes with NEC glass protection. And for what it is worth though, if you did pre-order the Edge 40, you get a special screen replacement offer worth rupees 9,500 if you end up breaking it. In terms of similarities, you get HDR playback on both the devices on YouTube. On Netflix, I saw HDR playback available on the Pixel 7a. It's not available on the Edge 40 at the moment, but Motorola assures me that Amazon Prime HDR playback and Netflix HDR playback is definitely coming soon. Now, both the phones also offer in-display fingerprint scanners to unlock the phone, and they're fairly fast to unlock. In fact, the Edge 40 is a smidgen faster compared to the Pixel 7a, but the Pixel 7a is not too bad. All things considered, I would pick the Edge 40 for display performance over the Pixel 7a. To round out the multimedia experience, you've got stereo speaker setup on both the phones. You get Dolby Atmos support on the Edge 40, which is not available on the Pixel 7a. I tested the speakers side by side. What I noticed is that the Motorola Edge 40 definitely gets slightly louder and offers slightly more bass as well. In comparison, the Pixel 7a sounds slightly richer with a little more treble response, and the channel balance between the left and right channels is better maintained. Take a listen for yourself and let me know what you guys think. Motorola has also for the very first time added Moto Spatial Sound on the Edge 40, which is definitely new. But for those who like using wired earphones like myself out here, you do not get a headphone jack with the phones. And therefore you will have to use a USB Type-C to 3.5mm dongle, and both these phones don't really work with every single dongle that is available in the market. Now if you want to use earphones, you will have to buy this dongle, and you will have to buy it separately because it is not available in the boxes of both these phones. And when you do that, pick the option recommended by the brands themselves, because that will definitely work then. Okay, now let's talk about the camera performance of both these phones. Here's a handy spec chart. Pause the video here, take a look at the spec differences between the two. I'll quickly jump to the camera samples. The Pixel 7a's primary camera captures natural, sharp details compared to the Edge 40's slightly over-sharpened images. It is also more color accurate compared to the Edge 40, which does come very close in color accuracy, but it sort of misses out sometimes. The HDR pictures also look better on the Pixel 7a. Now, if you're shooting friends and family, the skin tones on the Edge 40 are good, but not as good as Pixel 7a's real tone algorithm. Shooting against the light, the Moto Edge 40's poor HDR performance does affect the overall picture quality with the color inaccuracy and bloom around human subjects. Basically, the Pixel 7a is just cleaner and more refined in HDR performance. However, Motorola does try something unique by giving you 3 different focal lengths to capture portrait mode, but the portrait mode on the Pixel 7a is far better tuned. That said, Motorola finally scores a win with the sharpness in low light pictures, thanks in part to the fact that you get the widest aperture of f/1.47 in its price category, and in part to the night mode algorithm's sharpening, which does a good job of cleaning out the soft details and adding crisp textures. The 7a unfortunately could not manage that, and therefore the pictures end up looking soft, especially when you pixel peep. However, exposure-wise, both are equally matched. Now coming to the ultra-wide-angle camera, it's sharper on the Pixel 7a compared to the Edge 40, but both the phones actually do a decent job with the color science consistency in my testing. And ultra-wide HDR and ultra-wide low-light performance is refined and cleaner on the Pixel compared to Moto. Having said that, Motorola's ultra-wide-angle camera does offer you that extra macro capability with which you can actually shoot photos and videos both. And you know what? The Pixel 7a cannot match the macro performance of the Edge 40. Now, while the Pixel 7a had better skin tones with the primary camera, it doesn't extend to the selfie camera. In fact, the skin tones on the Edge 40 are better. But against the light, portrait shots and low light selfies are all better looking on the Pixel 7a. So that's where the Pixel makes up for it with better processing capabilities. And therefore, the Pixel 7a would be my selfie camera of choice here. Video recording on the Edge 40 tops out at 4K 30fps. On the Pixel 7a, you can shoot at 60 frames. Anyway, overall video quality, stabilization, sound recording quality, it is all better on the 7a.
So yeah, do let me know how was the video quality, video stabilization and audio quality. So yeah, do let me know how was the video quality, video stabilization and audio quality.
So is the case for the ultra-wide 4K 30fps video and the selfie 4K 30fps video. Pixel 7a did take the lead in both our testing scenarios. However, Motorola does pull back a win with low-light video recording, where I saw far less noise captured compared to the Pixel 7a's footage, which was far more noisier. Another couple of features that Edge 40 adds for fun, I would say, is the horizon lock stabilization and the fact that you can actually shoot portrait video with it, albeit only at 720p recording quality. Overall, when you look at the camera performance, the Pixel 7a is definitely better with the primary camera and the ultra-wide angle camera, and that comes as no surprise really. But the Edge 40 offers decent selfie performance, especially when the light is good, and the low light performance is particularly good thanks to the wide aperture. Moving on to performance, Moto actually uses the new Dimensity 8020 6nm fabrication process chip on the Edge 40. And on the Pixel 7a, we all know by now, it is the Tensor G2 based on Samsung's 5nm fabrication process. Science tells us that the Tensor G2 should ideally be more powerful, it should consume less power and be more efficient. But that's not really the case that we saw when we ran benchmarks and in real world usage. While the Pixel 7a does have a higher Antutu score and a higher Geekbench single core score, in Geekbench's multi-core score, the Edge 40 takes the lead. And in a sustained CPU throttle test, the Edge 40 doesn't throttle as much as the Pixel 7a does. Also interestingly, both the phones offer UFS 3.1 storage type, right? But the write speeds on the Pixel 7a are much lower than the write speeds on the Motorola Edge 40. Having said that, the GPU used on the Tensor G2 inside the 7a is definitely more powerful, but Google doesn't let it flourish. It throttles a lot, as you can see from the GPU stability score in our 3D Mark Wildlife stress test run. Moreover, the phone does get hotter and it loses more battery life as well. Edge 40 generally has better stable gaming performance, especially if you want to play games for longer gaming sessions. Because Call of Duty Mobile actually runs at very high graphics and max frame rates, updates on both the phones. And while playing with the Edge 40, I felt that it was better at performance compared to the Pixel 7a, which tends to get slightly hotter and throttles performance after a slightly longer session as well. In fact, Pixel's performance throttling issues extends to the camera app experience as well, where you can't record 4K videos for long durations because it will stop doing that. Where the Google Pixel 7a takes the lead is in AI and ML experience. In our Geekbench ML test, it scored higher than the Edge 40. All these numbers aside though, both these phones are very smooth in daily performance, but the Edge 40 felt more reliable. Also, the Edge 40 keeps the heating issues in check with the fact that you do get a special hypercrystal graphite cooling system inside the phone. While the Tensor G2 is more powerful on paper compared to the Dimensity 8020, the slight performance delta doesn't result in greater performance gains in real life usage. In fact, it is worse off, but Google had this system-wide fix for Pixel phones where it says that it has actually fixed the battery and heating issues. However, we don't see the difference. If you are a Pixel user and if you do find any difference in battery life or heating issues, let me know in the comment section below. What's even worse though is the network performance on the Pixel 7a. The 5G speeds are generally lower than the Edge 40 and in fact other phones in the price category as well. But the network stability when you're making calls, taking calls and also in calls is not as good and it's unstable on the Pixel 7a. Again, the Edge 40 is more reliable. The Edge 40 also supports 14 5G bands and Wi-Fi 6, which is also available on the Pixel 7a, but it works well on the Edge 40 compared to the Pixel 7a. Now, both the phones offer a very similar 4400 mAh battery inside, and you can expect about 5.5 hours to 6 hours of screen on time on both these. And the adaptive battery tuning that you get with stock Android is generally very good, and it should improve in battery performance over long run. Generally, that happens with the Edge 40 or the Motorola's Edge series. Battery tuning has been very good. Battery life wasn't generally good on earlier Pixel A phones, but the 7a seems to be performing okay. But where the Edge 40 definitely has an edge over the Pixel 7a is the charging speeds. 68 watt charging speeds compared to 18 watt, 20 watt on the Pixel 7a. So you can charge the Edge 40 from 0 to 100 in just about 42 minutes, which is about the ideal time if you ask me. On the Pixel 7a, it's excruciatingly long. It takes at least 1 hour 20 minutes to 1 hour 30 minutes for a full charge. This is where I need to apologize and mention that the Pixel 7a's charging speeds were wrongly classified in our previous video. We're correcting that. It's 1 hour 20 minutes to 1 hour 30 minutes. Moreover, like I mentioned, on the Edge 40, you get faster wireless charging speeds as well, 15 watt. Now, the reason why many people consider Motorola's Edge series or the Pixel series is for the near stock Android experience that you get with it. Actually, stock Android experience that you get with it, near stock on the Edge 40. Both these phones have Android 13, but Edge 40 has a skin, a custom Motorola skin called MyUX, which adds a lot of embellishments on top of a vanilla Android, and I'll come to all of the extras that you get with it in a bit. Because before that, I want to tell you guys that Motorola offers 2 years of software updates and 3 years of security updates on the Edge 40, whereas on the Pixel, you'll get 3 years of software updates and 5 years of security updates. Of course, Pixel has been more reliable when it comes to software updates compared to Motorola, but Motorola acknowledges the problem, especially this time around. They've mentioned it very clearly that they're working on ensuring that updates reach you on time. So fingers crossed. Now coming to the actual experience, stock Android is stock Android, but Motorola's additional features are genuinely useful. There's Moto Actions for sure, so you can do these things. And there are a couple of new apps, the Moto Secure app and the Family Spaces app. The Moto Secure app basically consolidates all of the privacy and security features into one app where you can see options like pin scramble or the privacy dashboard or the fact that you can actually secure lock your apps inside a folder. All of these features are available within that app itself, making it easier to access. On the contrary, the Family Spaces app is this app where you can actually define set time limits for when you give the phone to a kid in the house. Apart from that, I also noticed that the personalizations page on Motorola is far more feature rich. For example, if you add a new custom wallpaper, there are a bunch of cool new animations that are available on the Edge 40. The sway animation especially looks really cool. I know it's not a novel feature, but it does look cool and it's inserted within the default settings. So that's really nice. By the way, if you're wondering about bugs, I've used these phones extensively. Thankfully, neither on the Pixel nor on the Motorola Edge 40 did I notice any system breaking bugs. There are these tiny things here and there, but nothing major. Overall, if the Pixel software experience is great, Motorola one-ups that experience with the extra features that it offers, which are genuinely very useful. So, like I mentioned in the start, the Pixel 7a is way more expensive, at least 14,000 rupee more if you don't consider the discounts. But if you've reached here and throughout this comparison, you must have felt this. Should I really pay that much more for a better camera experience, and trust me, your feeling is justified. Because in almost many other parameters like the display experience, the charging speed, the sustained performance that you get with it, the network stability, the extra software features on top of it, the Edge 40 definitely performs better than the Pixel 7a. The Edge 40 offers a whole lot more for a whole lot less, and it feels like the most practical option for most Indians out there. As for the camera experience, I hope that a Gcam mod comes and fixes our woes really soon. Overall, the Motorola Edge 40 is a much more value for money phone compared to the Pixel 7a. So that's my final verdict. What did you guys think? Do you agree with that analysis or not? Let me know in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.